Okay, we'll get started. Thank you for those who've joined on time. We may have a few others who join as we go. I'll do a quick intro, and then if others join, they should be able to get the main content. So, good morning, welcome everyone. It's the first time I've hosted a higher ed webinar, and certainly the first time from my home. So it's very nice to have you join me. My name is Peter Hopwood. I'm the Higher Education Practice Lead for Altis. I've been with Altis since 2006 and 14 years, and I spend a lot of my time working in higher education. Before my current role here, I ran the UK office for Altis. I set that up and ran that for 7 years, and the vast majority of our clients there were universities as well. So today I'll talk a bit about my experience and some of the things we've done for universities here in Australia, in New Zealand, and also in the UK. I've just made a quick note. I've got you all muted. If you'd like to make some comment, please put some notes in the chat, and then we'll have breaks for questions and Q&A, and I'll get to your questions in the chat. So feel free to put those chat comments in, and if we've got time at the end of the Q&A, I should better unmute you to let you describe it in more detail if we need to. One more person joining. So before I jump into the agenda, I just want to briefly summarise the purpose of the webinar. With a lot of universities doing admissions reporting, a particular focus at the moment, clearly with closed borders and international travel effectively shut down for most students. I know universities are focusing really hard on trying to find ways to get more students in. A lot of the time we see this being very manual exercises and error prone, and we'll talk about that and what a future state might look like with better automation and better display of data. So I'll talk a bit about the current state we see in lots of universities we work with, and a slightly better world. So the current state often looks a bit like this. This woman will be screaming if her mouth wasn't covered by a mask because of COVID, at the kind of horrible spreadsheets and manual processes that we often see, versus what we're going to show you today, example of some really clean, tidy dashboards and process behind the scenes to make it much easier and quicker decision making. And we'll go through the live demo of a number of different dashboards. Here's our agenda. A little bit about us and our background and what we're talking about. We call data analytics and how I'm going to use that term today. And then talk about a fictional university, Patterson University. All the information I'm going to show you and data on this screen is fictional data, but it closely represents example clients we've worked with out of the UK and Australia. Some of the challenges of the current situation at this fictional university, which is very common with other universities we've seen, and then how we go about improving that and some of the dashboards we can produce. And we'll do a live demo. This live demo is Power BI, but it could be any tool. We've done it in a number of different tools. Then a bit about us, and then chance for QA. So as I said before, if you've just got any questions, please put them in the chat, and then we'll at various breaks we'll take those questions. So it's about trying to fast track to a single copy of truth, so we can get, in this case, admissions reporting faster, cleaner, and more useful. Firstly, a bit of background about Altis. I think some of you on the call will be familiar with Altis. Some of those who've registered recognise those names. We're a family-owned business, husband and wife team founders in 1998 in Sydney, and we've grown from there to Melbourne, Canberra, Auckland, and as I mentioned, the UK office, which I ran for 7 years. We're vendor independent. We don't sell software, so we have no benefit in particular software you use. It's really all about picking the right tool for you, and many tools out there work extremely well. We don't get paid by any of them because we think it's the only way we can give you independent advice. All we do is data and analytics. So we don't do building websites and other applications and student management systems. We just do data analytics. We work with over 40 universities across the UK, Australia and New Zealand. It's about 115 staff. One of the things we're very, very proud of is we are being ranked by the Great Places to Work in the top 50 for the last 10 years in a row. There's only, I believe, three other organisations that have managed that. So we look after our staff; they stay a long time, which means we keep a lot of the knowledge in-house from client to client, which is a benefit to our clients. Here's what we do. On the right-hand side, we really start with what is the outcome we're trying to achieve, whether that's profitability or efficiency or automation, and work backwards to what you need to put in place to make that work. There's really three pillars. One is the storage of data, kind of big data, cloud, those kind of things, and we'll talk a little about those today. Next is finding ways to turn that into useful information, whether that's self-service or dashboards or visualizations, and again, we'll talk about those today. And then on top of that, the more advanced analytics, some machine learning or predictive things. And again, we'll talk very quickly about that today. And our work starts with advisory, so strategies and advice, through delivery, which is the bulk of our work, and in some cases managed services, where our teams can remotely manage and look after these systems for you. As I said earlier, we're independent of vendors. We don't get paid by any of them, but we do partner with them because we need to make sure we're up to date with their roadmaps and where they're going. So we're partners with all the major firms in this space. Some of those brands you'll be familiar with, Microsoft, AWS, some of the others. One of the things that I think is one of the reasons I think clients keep coming back to us and our staff stay a long time is we have a mantra of connecting with courage, heart, and insight. So it's about connecting with our clients and individuals we work with. The courage to tell you what we see and how we feel about what's going on. The heart to care about your business, to give you the insight you need to run your organization. So here's an example of a number of our higher education clients. Ones at the top are mainly Australian, and then in the middle of the page on the right, so New Zealand, and then further down the page, some of the UK universities. A big chunk of these I worked personally with in all of those regions. So some of the things we're showing you today have drawn from our knowledge from those different universities. All of them are a little bit different. Some are larger, some are smaller, but in terms of equipment, they have some very, very similar challenges. What it means is we have very, very deep experience in this sector. So what is data and analytics? What do I mean by it when I talk about it today? Lots of different phrases: data warehousing, data lakes, data warehousing, BI. What I mean by it today is really bringing together data from lots of different sources and structuring it in a way that the institution can make decisions across the whole institution, not in different pockets. And of course, that needs tool sets, specific tools. It needs not only organizational governance, institutional governance, but data governance, security and privacy. We have to make sure we protect the data quality to make sure it makes sense. But also it's about helping individuals become more literate in data that's available, all the quirks and peculiarities, particularly around student data, but it's true of every data set, and that culture of understanding it and being able to make sense of it and visualize it. So the examples today are all based on a fiction university, Patton University. It's a completely fictitious organization. So Patton University, obviously named after Banjo Patterson. And of course, where else would you put it but on the Snowy River? Clearly, that's where Patton University must be based. All data here is fictional, so there's no sensitivity here. This fiction institution is relatively small. It has about 90 courses across 5 faculties, about 17,000 applicants per year. Patton University also has a pathway provider, a wholly owned pathway provider. So some Australian universities use their own pathway providers, some have independent pathway providers. But in this fiction university, Better Knowledge is the pathway provider, which allows students who don't have traditional ATAR or traditional academic background to attend a pre-sessional or additional course before they go for their bachelor course. And that's a big source of revenue for this organisation. It's also a way they generate lots of their student numbers. Also, they're very worried about recruitment, particularly focusing on domestic postgraduate. If the international market's being shut down, they're focusing very heavily on postgraduate recruitment. And need to make sure this data is available to them very frequently and accurately so they can change direction, do different marketing campaigns and find different ways to bring students in. We've made these logos up. If they look like any other university, that is entirely an accident. This is supposed to be completely fictional. If it does resemble any institutions, so we apologise, that's not our intent. It's entirely supposed to be fictional. So how does Patterson University deal with reporting analysis today? And as I describe this, I'd like some of you to think about where there's any similarities with the organisation and how it works for your institution. So Patterson University has many sources it needs to get data from. There's student management systems, that's all on premises. There's financial systems, there's grants, there's research, there's HR, there's various fundraising platforms, whether that's alumni or other individuals who provide funds. There's learning management systems, there's library systems, many systems across the university. There's also sources in the cloud, so cloud-based payroll, a CRM system, whether that's something like Hobson's or whether that's Salesforce or Dynamics. There's also lots of other external data they need to get access to, whether it's admission centres data or quilt survey data or rankings. They need to get data from external files and feeds as well as on-premise systems. Some of these have their own reporting platforms built into them, particularly student management systems. There's no consistent data governance. Each of these systems is managed by different departments or faculties. It's very hard to work out who owns which bit of the student record. And particularly those external data sources, there's some data quality concerns or challenges, but they can't always be sure what's good and what's bad and when they're going to get the files. So data comes in. There's been lots of attempts to manage it and use it. In some cases, we've got a copy of the source system which reporting is against. Sometimes there's staging databases or various different subsets of data. There's been 2 or 3 attempts to build some kind of data mart or data warehouse. And one department's put together a data lake, which has become rather unmanaged, and people often refer to it as data swamp. And everywhere we look, there's Excel spreadsheets that are used to draw data together or copy and manipulate data, often with transformations or calculations that are inconsistently applied. On top of that, there's the institution standard BI tools like Oracle or IBM or Business Objects or Crystal reporting services, some of them embedded in student management, some of them on top of these copies. And there's various departments who use visualization tools. As demand for reporting and analytics increases, IT and planning teams are often a bottleneck. They can't turn around data and combine it quickly enough and accurately enough for the different teams, and we end up with more and more spreadsheets. And it becomes very hard to join together data from different areas to answer really tough questions like course viability, which require data from lots of different areas, or things like dashboards for TEXA that require the quality management process representing an enormous chunk of data. And then there's these huge numbers of consumers, whether that's in the faculties concerned about allocations, whether that's the academics concerned about progressions, completions, planning, look at strategic plan, finance, worry about revenues, marketing, recruitment. All different teams are asking for more and more data. But equally, externally as well, we have to provide data to taxi, for prisms, for visa and immigration, admission centres, etc., etc. These are the 4 pillars of reporting. Data sources also often being changed, being upgraded from one system to another, meaning each of these 3 other pillars become harder and harder to manage, and a longer queue before they can be answered. Also, because we combine in all Excel data data sets. We've got lots of error prone, duplication, and we can't be sure that the numbers all make sense, the same clear definitions. So if I focus in on emissions out of this entire picture, we need to get data at least from student management system and admission centres. That data is going into multiple different silos and multiple different Excel. All of the tools can see a bit of that data and more Excel. And again, there's a huge number of people in a range of audiences that want to see that data, internal and external. Lots of moving parts. There's no single copy of data. And there's no consistent definitions. Again, let me know in the chat if you think there's any similarity to any of your institutions. So what has Paterson University done to improve this? First of all, it's put in place a single data integration platform. Now, in this example, I'm using a Microsoft example, but it could be any tool, and I'll talk about some other examples in a moment. But for this one, this cloud-based data integration ingestion platform grabs data from all these sources, stores it in one place that deals with both batch data, so overnight, hourly, daily, or streaming data, if we need to get data in much more frequently. It deals with structured data and unstructured data, and in some cases, semi-structured data, which has elements of unstructured in a structure. It allows one data dictionary, one end-to-end track of what's happened to the data, and then much better governance. So it's just somebody else just joined. And then this institution has agreed on using one tool for all of the reporting that isn't embedded straight in the source systems. So it's one platform, which allows single place for security, privacy. It allows everyone to access that one tool, one data dictionary, and also it removes the effort that the planning and IT teams, because a lot more data is self-service. Use and get a lot more data themselves. This particular example, I said, this is Power BI. Works very, very well on phones, on iPads, on desktops, on laptops. So we don't have to worry about multiple different tools for different devices. Power BI can be set up to do all of those. Also can search data and work with it more easily. What it has done is removed all this manual and duplicated effort, which means those teams can spend their time doing much more useful, valuable things. Also one copy of the truth and one definition and one data dictionary. Also, because it's all managed through one particular process, it's much easier for us to do the institution to answer cross-departmental questions, those difficult things like course viability, or looking at the QA process for TEXA. So if we look at admission specifically, it follows all these steps and meets as individuals, and the users can self-serve. The key thing here is there's one single copy of the data, one definition, one version of the truth. Once we've done that, we can easily add in from admissions, we can add in enrollments data, finance data, HR data, facilities management, research, any other set of data we need, and we can join it all up and conform it in one place. We don't have to wait until we put all data together to do this work. We can do it a chunk of data or a data set at a time. And we can get some benefit each time we deliver a data set. This isn't a monolithic project. This is done in chunks, meeting different data sets at a time, which can reach a broad number of users. I drawn this diagram using Microsoft as one example. It doesn't have to be Microsoft. Often tools you already have do the job, or we can help you choose new ones. Any one of these platforms, Amazon, Google, Snowflake, Matillion, and many, many others can be used here. And in the BI space, again, Tableau, Click, and many, many tools also can be used here. This is just one example I'm going to show you today. Again, feel free to comment whether you are using any of these tools and any commentary you have over any of these platforms or tools. So let me show you this particular demo of the emissions reporting, and this is, I think, probably the most interesting bit from my perspective of being able to show you some real life demos. So here's all the here's the solution diagram. The data has come into a SQL database. In this case, happens to be Azure SQL database in the cloud. We're using Data Factory to manipulate it, and we're also using it to look up external data sets. So CIFA for demographic data. We can geocode it. We can use things like travel APIs, look at travel times. It's our database, and then we can Power BI to analyze it. I'm going to switch to a demo now. So here is our admissions dashboard. This is one dashboard for all admissions into Paris University. Very, very simple and clean. We've highlighted in red where things are of concern. So we're below a target or below a goal or below an area we're concerned about. We're also using these very, very light colors and minimal clutter. We have got logos, so we know we work. It's very, very small. And this is a very interactive dashboard. So here we can hover over. Hover over and drive drill throughs. It's going to take a second to refresh. It's been waiting for me. We can start to see in this example, this is our cumulative applications, and we can compare the various years, 2019, 18, 17. This demo doesn't have 2020 data in it. Once I've got an overall picture, I can then start to see this split out by different characteristics I'm interested in. So whether that's gender, SES, socioeconomic status, domestic versus international, this university's particular focus on mature age applicants. I can see the overall cumulative figures. I can also then go and see the actual specific figures. I'm interested in the number of applications, the percentage of them, but also how am I doing on a year-on-year growth or shrinkage. We can see most areas have got growth across all of our sectors. In particular, students registering as not male or female as a gender is it's been a growing trend in the previous year. Also, we can see it's a typical ratio of low to high SES. Clearly, this university is dominated by domestic students and is growing. And we've got a slight shrinkage of non-mature students in this example. And we can also see the pipeline from the submission of applications through the various stages. And the bottom left here, we can see our kind of headline figures of how we're doing our applications. Red indicates an area of concern, the exclamation mark, it means the same thing. We're way below our goal. Offers, we're ahead against our goal, etc. But also, the summary is useful, but if I work in a particular, so I'm just going to admit some more people who've joining now. If I work in a particular faculty, I might want to drill into how does this look for my faculty. So if I'm in arts and law, we can see slightly different mix. Also, we'll filter the courses based on the faculty we select. Oops, I've got some background noise there. I'm just going to go and mute some participants who just joined. This works in terms of faculties. If I'm responsible for arts and law faculty, I can see my course in general doing extremely well, year-on-year growth near my targets, but law is slightly down. Equally, if I am a course director of a particular course, for example, medicine, I can focus specifically on medicine, and I can see where I am down and where I am up. This one, we've clearly got problems with conversion rates for medicine. So this is a pretty common type of view we see for universities doing dashboards. We try to keep it simple and clean, easy to read. Where we see much, much less commonly is the next two dashboards I'm going to show you. This one is focusing specifically on postgraduate enrolment. So Patterson University is very concerned about postgraduate domestic enrolment, particularly in light of international students' numbers collapsing. So here, on the top left-hand corner, we've got a data set that looks at students who have attended one course, for example, an undergraduate course, and have come back for a second postgraduate course. So we've got a data set of all the students who've done an undergraduate course and those who have come back for a postgraduate course. So the blue here is those that are re-enrolled, so they've done more than one course, and the grey is those who haven't re-enrolled. And then this is the age groups of those and the different ratios. On the right-hand side here, this is a visualization that's built into Power BI. It's a machine learning widget and component that runs a very basic machine learning model. But we said to it, what influences the conversion students who re-enroll from undergraduate to postgraduate? And provide a data set. This model is a way to start the analysis. It's certainly clearly not going to be as accurate as spending a lot of time doing machine learning, but it gives you a place to start. By allowing access to this raw data, and you simply select the data set and what is it you want to understand about it. It says across the university, students whose home language, the language they speak in their home, which is the demographic piece of data we have around students, are 1.79% more likely to re-enroll than the average student. Next most indicative is Arabic. You'll notice on this chart on the right here, Italian is highlighted, and it's not the most common language. So this model is smart enough to realize that there's only 24 students whose home language is Zulu, and that data set is so small, it's actually not a particularly useful data set to analyze for trying to target students who re-enroll. So this university is trying to work out, of the students we currently have studying, what are the factors that can help us influence them re-enrolling in a postgraduate course. So after language, the next most significant is those in the Faculty of Medicine are roughly 1.5 times more likely to re-enroll. And again, here you can see the breakdown. So I've done no complex analysis. I've simply pointed Power BI at the data set. That's been structured in a way to look at the enrolment and those that have not re-enrolled. I'll just let some more people join. And this widget allows us a quick way to analyze that data and areas to focus on. We also can obviously filter this for particular age groups. If I want a particular interest in the over 55s, what is it about over 55s? Influences them re-enrolling, and this analysis is running on the fly. So you saw that little icon for a moment, analyzing. I'll do it again so you can see. Running analysis is actually being run in real time now based on the data set. So in this particular example, we clearly have a very large cohort of Somali speakers in this age group. If I select the over 55s, you'll see again a very different cohort. In this case, is home language of Vietnamese is the most significant. Now, bear in mind, this is not going to be the entire story. This is a way to help you focus on where do I need to do further analysis. The model also allows to look at top segments, which is whereas the key influencers show one factor that indicates them re-enrolling, the top segments allows you to look at multi-factor, so multiple indicators. In this case, the biggest segment of people re-enrolling is those who are not in faculty of engineering and whose home language is Arabic. And we can see that 24.6% of them re-enroll compared to our benchmark of 13%. And then we can drill further and further into data sets and look at more and more information about it. So it's very, very straightforward to use a tool like this. It's some very simple machine learning to give us areas to focus on for more analysis. Also, some of the things we can do in Power BI here is we can answer some simple questions in the data using natural language. So how many course names do we have? And the bottom left-hand corner here, it's creating a new report on the fly based on what I've typed in. So there are 28 we've got some strange message from Zoom. Apologies. As I'm typing, it's generating new reports for me on this data set. So in case I've got more course codes, you see it's generating a report for a number of course codes. So this natural language processing is reading the metadata I've assigned to the data and dynamically allowing me to ask some simple questions around that data. That's the advantage of having one single path for the data, where I've got one simple data model. So the final dashboard I'm going to show you today is looking at the pathways business. So Patterson University recruits students using recruitment agents, so educational recruitment agents who are based all over the world. And here, agents are in different tiers and provide different discounts, and they have different data center, they have different teaching campuses. Also provide different discounts, so we can see whether providing discounts to those students is driving the right behavior. We also see our pipeline of those that are receiving offers, those have been confirmed, those who are arriving. Also here we can see our top agents. Now, interesting visualization to show you here is these agents don't only can recruit from different countries, they also can send students to different universities, including Patterson University, but not entirely. So here, this is a Sankey chart, which allows you to see relationships between two different data sets. So for this particular agent, they have recruited students from Australia, the UK, and Bob's is the name of an institution, a fiction institution, and they can send students to different universities. In this case, Patterson University being the largest, but clearly there are others around the world. And each of these agents have slightly different patterns of who they send and where. So this lets us focus on what our top agents are doing, how many students they're sending us, and where they're sending those students. So I'm just going to switch back to my presentation. So these are screenshots embedded in the slides. At the end of this presentation, this will be recorded, and obviously the screenshots will be available, so you can see those. So hopefully that's given you a sense of some useful different views of the admissions data and some different facilities and capabilities, and the advantages of having this single unified data ingestion, transformation, and storage with data set on top. And just a few minutes on how we can help you get there. I've shown you this diagram. We're often asked to do maturity assessments or health checks of existing systems, or provide strategies and roadmaps to move from a current state with challenges to solving those. And because we don't sell software, we're often asked to take part of platform or toolset selections that suit individual clients' needs. Clearly, the bulk of our work is turning those strategies into reality. So designing and building admissions reporting solutions in these different segments I showed you, and doing analysis of them, creating dashboards, and building all the infrastructure behind the scenes. And last but not least in this section, helping people make sense of it and use it and deliver results on it. Whether that's training people in the data modeling behind the scenes, train them in the tools, or train them in ways to visualize the information. And lastly, we have teams based in New Zealand who can remotely manage and support applications for you. So last slide on us. Why us as opposed to other organizations? We have very deep experience. We don't get paid by the vendors. We've specialized purely in this space since our foundation in 1998. We care deeply about this organization and this industry, and our staff connect with our clients to try and deliver insightful solutions. And our staff stay around a long time because we've been a great place to work employer. Our staff stay a long time, which help maintain knowledge of your solutions and your challenges. It's that time for me to stop talking. I'm just going to go and see the chat. So, there's any other any questions that have come in? Any questions that anyone wants to ask over the chat? I'll do chat first, and then I'll open the floor to verbal questions if there's anyone who wants to ask verbally. I can't see anyone in the chat with questions or comments. Anyone verbally? You can unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question. Hi. Leanne, do you have a question? Got any crackling, but no voice. Does someone have any questions? Oh. Hi, Leanne's going to type the question as we can't seem to hear. So the question, I don't know whether everyone can see the chat on the screen that I can see. With complex admissions models, how can institutions help the user to self-service? Absolutely. I think there's many layers to this. One is, I think, one is doing our best to simplify the rules, simplify the way in which data is presented. So you model the data, the simpler we can make the data model. Star schemas are a very good way to structure data for simplicity of querying. So I think part of it's around data modeling. I think a big chunk of it is around clear definitions and clear modeling. I'll say clear explanations of all the calculations and rules. I also think some tools are much simpler to work with than others. Clearly, tools like Power BI or Tableau or Look or any of those examples we've shown are much easier to work with than Excel in many cases. Also, I think there's a great deal of training and education needs to go on. There's training in the tools, there's training in how to lay out data to make sense of it. There's also significant training in the specifics of the quirks of the numbers and the data and the rules. So I think it's a combination of a bit of technology and a lot of training and working really hard to build clear explanations and documentation. I know one of my colleagues, Veronica, doing some work for a Sydney-based university at the moment, and the IT team understood data very clearly, and so did the planning team. The real difficulty was getting really simple explanations which the end users could understand, which had to balance the complexity of the data with trying to make it simple to understand. I know she spent many months working closely with both the technical team and the end users to give the really clear definitions that she explained over and over again and continue to train teams over and over. So I agree, this is a very tricky situation. I think it's a combination of training, documentation, good easy to use tools, and simple modeling behind the scenes, or modeling to make it as simple as possible. Thank you for your question. Any other questions? What sort of training can you offer in assisting dashboard authors to improve data visualization? Do you use Stephen Few concepts? Interestingly, again, it's a very good question. I actually first met Stephen Few. I went to a conference in San Diego, I think it's 2007. And I've been in IT and dimensional modeling and data warehousing all my life. And when I sat for this presentation, I had realised that year that I've been doing it all wrong. I've been doing the visualization wrong. So on the back of that, I came back to Australia and I went to our CEO and I said, we have to bring this guy to Australia. And being the CEO he said, off you go do it. So I rang up Stephen Few and we ran his training courses in Australia for many, many years. I moved to the UK, I also ran his training courses in the UK, got Stephen to come and demonstrate themselves. Stephen's retired from teaching, so he no longer flies around the world teaching. But we still offer Stephen Few training courses. We sort of also offer courses in storytelling, taking some concepts from a lady called Cole Nasbam-Knaflic, who was ex of Google. So we deliver a number of training courses using both Stephen Few's concepts and Cole's concepts in helping people understand how to lay out data in a really clear way. So absolutely, we run those training courses. We run them publicly. We also run them privately on client sites. So let me know if you're interested in those. We're very happy to deliver them. We've got dedicated trainers who just train in visualization and specific tools as well. So sometimes some of the concepts are quite difficult to do in the tools. Some are very easy. We've got trainers who specialize in both the tools and this visualization. So yes, hopefully those dashboards you've seen are reasonably compliant with Stephen Few's concepts. That's always our aim. So I'm still able to take questions, but just in the meantime, I'm just going to put up on the screen here. Please do fill out a survey and let us know what you think. We don't run many of these webinars. It's something we're starting up. Please let us know if it's valuable, if it's useful, how can we do better, and what else would you like to hear from. There's a URL on the screen now. It will also be sent a follow-up email to you, so you can click on the link, save you having to remember it and type it. That's it from me. Last call for any questions. Either verbally or on the chat. Thank you, Leonie. Okay, everyone, thank you for attending and staying to the end. Any questions or issues, feel free to email me. Either from the screen, details here, there'll be a follow-up email sent later today, and all those links and contact details will be on there. Right, thank you, everyone.